Hi, Wanderers.
Welcome to Military Chatter.
So we're going to go in a different direction with this set of videos. So we're going to talk a little bit about traveling, specifically kind of traveling in the military, some of the idiosyncrasies of it, things are a little different, and things you should take advantage of.
So when you're in the military and you get orders overseas, certain things have to happen. We've talked about that. And one of those things is passports. So tell us about the different kinds of passports.
So most people get what's called a tourist passport. It's the passport. You go to the post office, you pay, it's like, or at least it was like $85. It's good for 10 years if you're
Like a normal, what you would consider
yeah.
to be a normal passport.
Yeah, it's good for 10 years if you're an adult, and it is good for 5 years if you're under 18. So you'll have those, or you should get those when you're in the military if you're going overseas. But if you're going overseas for an assignment, if that's where you're going to be stationed, your family will all get official passports. And so these are really no different from a practical standpoint than a tourist passport, except that at the end of your assignment you turn them back in, and you're really only supposed to use them for official travel. So you use them to get in and out of the country where you're going to be stationed, as far as that goes. If you travel while there, that's what the tourist passport is for. So you use it for when you go
like out of the country that you're stationed in.
Yeah.
We always took them both because I was paranoid that one would have a stamp in it that the other one needed, or that we would be in a country that, and how would we get back into Spain or Turkey, because our official passports had those visas in them. And I was like, so
yeah,
we just brought them both. But I also just heard somebody talking about non-military, like there are just certain businesses and companies that that people can have two passports from, because sometimes when they go like at work in a different country, they have to turn in a passport for those people to have.
That makes sense.
And then they have another one. So.
But and it's not. Most people might go, oh, it's a diplomatic passport. No, it's not that. It's a government passport, so it's a little bit different. The other interesting thing is that the military member will not get a government passport. That's what your orders are for. So one of my favorite things I have, memories from our time in Turkey, is my NATO orders, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The reason we were allowed to be in Turkey was because they're part of NATO. And so every time I left and returned to Turkey through Istanbul, usually, every time through Istanbul, it got stamped. So I had this in my stuff. Still have this piece of paper, and it's just covered in all different colored stamps when I went in and out of the country of Turkey, which is pretty cool. I like it.
And that works. I mean, no matter where you are, the active duty person, military member, will not have two passports. So that was another weird thing. I just made sure I was in charge of me and the kids. So he handled his own orders and passports. I always have a copy of his orders when we travel, just because that's what is giving me permission to be there to begin with. And then we have two sets of passports, and I just kept up with everybody's. So.
And when you're stationed overseas, at least what we've experienced in Europe, is the U.S. government's going to have what's called a SOFA with every country, and it's not what we're sitting on. It stands for Status of Forces Agreement. So basically, it's the agreement between what?
I said I'll put that.
Thank you. Basically, it's the agreement between the countries as to what you're allowed to do. For example, when we were in Spain, basically, spouses could not work off base.
Yeah, it was a big deal for a lot of people, because there were very limited jobs on base, but off base, the unemployment rate in that area of Spain was very high. And so part of the agreement that the United States made with the Spanish government was that we would not take jobs from Spanish people that they could take out off base. And so that was part of the SOFA agreement. And so it became, it became a problem for a lot of people, or not became, but it is a problem for a lot of spouses because they move over there and they've been working full time the whole time, you know, or whatever, and then they get over there and they're like, okay, I'm gonna go get a job, and then you can't.
So each country is going to have a different thing. When we were in Turkey, part of the SOFA was you guys actually got residency cards
Right.
that you use for traveling around the country.
Which helped us get a really good deal on a cruise because we got Turkish citizen rates.
Right. So we were residency. So all that to say is if you're in the military and you're doing traveling, get your tourist passport. You're going to have an official passport, and you may have other things depending on what the needs or the agreements are, you know, with the countries. That's right. So can you just go wherever you want to, whenever you want to, and travel all willy-nilly?
I can. However, what we discovered was there are some places in this world where an active duty military person is not allowed to go because the government says not to.
Right.
You can request special permission to go to places, and if you have family members there, they might approve it. Sometimes they don't even do that. So when you say, yes, I'll join the military, you're also saying, okay, I guess I won't see every country in the world.
Yeah. So specifically, you're referring to when we were in Spain, you got to travel to Morocco.
Right.
I did not.
We drove down to Gibraltar and we got on the ferry and we went across and spent the whole day in Morocco. But Morocco, if you don't know, is in Africa, and there are certain places that you have to have special permission to go, and that is one of them. And the process for getting the special permission was longer than we would have had there to be able to do it. So we decided to go without him. So
just left me. Didn't even care.
It
Which was fine.
It was great. We had a lot of fun.
And Amanda's right. It's about the fact that, you know, quite frankly, I'm an asset. I'm an asset of the U.S. government. And so that comes with certain restrictions. So, for example, travel bans may be put on certain areas, not just for the member, but also for the family. So
that's true. When
that
we lived
happen.
in Spain, also, we were planning a trip to Belgium. We wanted to go up to Bruges. What's it called?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what it's called, but everybody was talking about it a lot. And so we wanted to go there, and we had already gotten our flight, or we knew where we were going to be flying into.
Well, we had tickets flying into.
Oh, that's true. Brussels is where we were going to fly. So, and you might remember, there was a bomb that went off in an airport in Brussels, and it was like a month before we were going to travel, maybe not even that long.
No, maybe that long.
And so they said, nope, nobody is going to fly to Brussels anymore. So we canceled our flight. Yeah. And that's just how it happens sometimes. I mean, there are travel restrictions, like, you know.
Well, and when we were in Turkey, which was a different place when we were there, because you could take families, you can no longer take families. But basically, the entire eastern half of the country was off limits. It was a no-go zone.
Right.
But because they didn't know what was going to happen. So that to say is, you can travel, but sometimes life, safety, all those sorts of things may cause you not to be able to go somewhere.
To go everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So the last question for this one is from you. Oh, from me. Okay. So the last question for this one is, tell us about traveling in Europe. How do we travel in Europe?
Just do it. Just go. No. I think what Amanda's referring to is if you're military, or if you're not and you make it to Europe, go. But once you're in Europe, then travel around Europe. So we've got actually friends who are thinking about taking a trip over.
Right, but when you think about it from what I would call a traditionally American standpoint, is that you say things like, I'm going to Washington, D.C. And that is what you do, and that's what you think about just being in Washington, D.C. You don't think, I'm going to go to Washington, D.C., and then I will fly down to North Carolina, let's say, and spend a few days there, and then I might fly down to Florida and spend, well, I was trying to pick something close, like within.
So South Carolina, like the Outer Banks.
So you would fly down there and spend a few days, and then maybe fly down to Florida and spend a few days, and that's not how we vacation. Like, we go to Washington, D.C., and we might drive to Philadelphia, possibly, which is, like a day trip from D.C. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, if you go to Europe, and you're planning a trip to Europe, and this is for anybody, whether you're military or not, find the cheapest destination in Europe from where you are. So it could be Rome, it could be Malaga in Spain, it could be London or Ireland, it doesn't even matter. You just get your body into Europe the cheapest way you can from the United States, and then you start making a list of everywhere that you want to go and everything that you want to see, because a train ticket or a plane ticket is very cheap. So once you get to Europe, you can fly. We had a friend when we lived in Spain. He was single, but he would sometimes get plane tickets from Seville, Spain, to Rome, Italy for $20 US.
And he literally would fly there for the day.
Yeah, he would fly there in the morning, hang out there all day, turn around and fly back. Because plane tickets are very cheap. Like I said, you wouldn't fly from DC to North Carolina for a couple of days and then fly back to your house. However, you can fly from Spain to Germany for a couple of days. And we got tickets for $35 from Spain to Brussels in Belgium. And that's why it didn't kill us when we had to cancel the flight. But then China and I did end up flying there because we went to Amsterdam, and our tickets were about $25 or $30 each. And that's it.
Was that the round trip?
That was round trip. Now, you're going to have an issue with luggage, especially if you're coming from here. But what I would do is I would take small bags that you can take on your smaller trips. Really, you're going to be able to wash clothes everywhere over there anyway, so don't take more than 2 or 3 days worth of clothes anyway. I would just do my best to get it in a small bag, and everybody take their own small bag.
Well, and because those cheap flights that you can get around Europe, usually on Ryanair.
Right, Ryanair is our favorite. Vueling did a couple.
They're so cheap as long as you're not checking luggage and bags. But so we had very small. Everybody had their small carry-on suitcase,
right.
and it's going to be smaller, a little smaller than what we typically use in the U.S.
But we don't need all the things that we think we need. And if you're visiting large cities, when you get over there in Europe, they're going to have everything anyway. They might not be called Walmart or Target, but they are the same kinds of stores. So you can
Carrefour. That's what I'm looking for.
Right. You can get all the things that you need to get. Now, not medication. I would bring all of that. Yeah. But everything else, you'll be able to get. They have toothbrushes and toothpaste. Don't worry about it. And they have clothes. So if you get over there and you're like, oh, I actually need more clothes or something, then you can fix that when you get there. But everybody should go. And not go, oh my gosh, I really want to go to Paris, and then spend $2,000 to fly into Paris when you could have spent $800 and flown into Malaga, and then, like we did, fly to Paris for about $40 per ticket. Yep. So, that's a lot cheaper. So do that. And you still get to see Paris.
And if you are military and you end up stationed overseas, please travel.
Yeah.
Nothing. I wish I could remember that Mark Twain quote.
One eternity later. A few moments later.
In case this is the first time you're seeing our dog, his name is Django, and he gets cold, and so he loves to have his sweater on. And he's taking a nap.
So really, it's I'm going to read the whole quote, but it's the first part that most people miss. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely in these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of people and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime. But I was thinking that travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. And so, yeah, so if you're stationed overseas or just military or not, you get a chance. There's a podcaster I listen to. His wife is working on a master's, and they're doing that in Paris. That's an opportunity to travel. And even if you can't get over to Europe, travel around our great country.
Yeah, you can't fly as easily. But
No.
Right.
And the
But you
train
can still
system's
go.
not near as good either.
The trains are not as good. But the main
travel.
thing, and the main thing over there in Europe, here's what I would suggest. When you get your assignment, this is for military people who are going to be stationed there. You're going to be there for 2 years. So don't think.
Or more. 2 to 3.
Well, 2 is the
minimum.
is what I was saying. But you're not going to get over there. I mean, don't get over there and think, oh, I have plenty of time. Like, I'm going to be here for 2 years. It's going to go by faster than you think.
Yeah.
And you can't do all the traveling in the last 6 months before you go. So what we did is we talked to every family member and we were like, what is one place that you would like to go to while we're over here in Europe? And everybody picked a place. And we just started knocking them out. We were like, okay, in this 6 months, we want to try to get here. In the next 6 months, we want to try to get here. And we just kept scheduling them and going. And you have to be proactive about it. Nobody's going to schedule your vacations for you. You have to do it, and then you have to go. And it is worth it.
Absolutely.
So thank you for joining us for our new series on traveling in the military.
Dog's asleep.
He stays asleep on me all the time, so it's fine.
Thanks for joining us. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and click the bell to get notifications.
Bye, guys.
See you later.
I forgot what we're doing.
Don't be distracting.